Alright, let's get into it. So what I did here is I just created a fresh scene collection. I call it Basic Streaming 2, which is actually a misnomer. I should call it Basic Casting 2. So here's the old one I just showed you. In the meantime, I logged in into Twitch. We're not going to really use Twitch, but I just want to provide you with the same look as before. So actually I call this Basic Streaming 2, which is wrong. So I should call this Basic Casting 2. So we're just going to create a completely new scene collection so that we can build everything from scratch, so that there's like really no step missing and you see everything as it is happening. So the first thing is a little bit of explanation actually. So I want to show to you what a browser source actually is in OBS. So a browser source, I'll just give it the normal name. So you see here it's showing like something, and that something is what you would see if you type that URL into your browser. So for example, if I go and open here my Firefox and I copy this URL and I put it in here, then you would see the same thing, or almost the same thing. You see it's like the aspect ratio is a little bit different, and there's like this border here around. Well, okay, but border is around here as well. But whatever. The idea here is that your OBS has basically built in a very basic browser, and it can go into the internet and open a home page and then display that in your canvas. So for example, if I go and showing my browser here, if I go to NGS and take that link over here and put it in here and click OK, then you see we have a little NGS browser window here, and it will actually look a little bit different likely if we make it a little bit larger. So your browser has a width and a height, right? So if I go and take my browser and I can change its width and its height. And you, as you know, when you surf the internet, sometimes when you change the width and the height, then things change on the home page, right? You see here like how these elements change, right? Like these become smaller if I change my browser smaller. The table dimensions change. All these kind of things are happening. So this is why it is important to tell your OBS browser at which width and height it should actually operate. And usually you want it to operate in full screen mode. So if you have a 1920 by 1080 resolution, which many people have, then you would put in a width of 1920 and a height of 1080. So that is basically just your screen resolution, whatever screen you are operating with. And here we have now the NGS homepage as seen through the OBS browser. And you see it is looking a little bit different, right? So here we have a black background and here we have a white background. Why is that? Well, actually there is no color here at all. It's just transparent, and in NGS, in OBS, that means it is just see-through, and our canvas is black in the background, right? So if I would put something else here, let's take a quick image. Let me just grab something. And I put the browser above this, you see it is just transparent. And in my browser, transparent means like this very bright gray or white. I think it's a bright gray, but whatever. So your browser and your OBS browser, they sometimes display things differently. Another example for that would be if I go and show something on GitHub. If I put it into my OBS browser, this is on a white background. If I display this on the same homepage, on my Firefox, it is on a dark background because dark mode is on here. Alright. And OBS, you also notice here on my browser I'm logged in GitHub, and in OBS I'm not, because OBS is not logged in, obviously. So it's a separate browser. It has nothing to do with your actual browser. It is not like a game capture or something where you just see what your browser is showing you. No, it's like its own thing. Alright. And you can also go and actually interact with the things which are happening inside your browser in OBS. Like, there are all these links, but obviously I cannot click them because this is just a display, right? But you can go and actually click interact here. And if you make this a little bit larger, it makes things easier. You can, for example, click these links now, and then it will actually update your browser source. You can actually use this like your normal browser. Okay, so enough of that. Why am I talking so much about a browser source? Like you might be wondering. Well, there are two important applications for this. First, some home pages offer special sites which are pretty useful for casters. I'm going to show this to you. If you know Tournament, this is a homepage where you can have different tournaments, esport tournaments organized. And some people use this for their own little tournaments and leagues. Also in Heroes of the Storm, for example, the Zero Chill Distillery Invitational is on Tournament. So here we have, for example, a tournament about a Rocket League on a high school Rocket League in Australia, which is pretty cool, and I'm very happy to live in a world where this is something which exists. So obviously you could just go and display that, but as I was telling you, there is something pretty neat, and actually now I need to find where it is. Whereas Tournament offers these kind of pages. Alright, so this is the link is tv.tournament.com, and if you compare that, this is play.tournament.com. So this is where your players would go and just like get all the information or participate in matches and whatnot. Like here are different teams, but there is like this page, and this page is designed to be displayed in full screen in your OBS, in your streaming software. So if we copy that link, paste it in here, and give it a little bit of time to update and load, then you see that you now have a pretty cool source, which is like showing new things. It's showing like results and whatnot. Who is organizing this? So this is just keep going, and the people who are putting the tournament on Tournament can actually determine like what is being displayed and in what kind of order and what kind of extra information there is and whatnot, like with sponsors and all this kind of things. They can do this, and you can just profit from this as the caster by just putting the source in here. And this is like something we could, for example, show before your real cast starts, before you go live, right? So that is pretty cool, keeping in mind that these browser sources exist and that there's like these kind of home pages. The second important reason why I'm talking about so much about browser sources is that Soothsayer, the program we're going to use a lot, is actually based on browser sources. So what Soothsayer is doing is basically doing something similar to this, just applied to Heroes of the Storm, and it is of course not hosting that on the internet. It is just hosting or creating these HTML files on your own computer. So how does that work? Well, I can go and instead of putting a URL here for some link on the internet, I can just say local file and browse to some file on my computer. And let me quickly grab one. I'm gonna hide this a little bit here so that we don't spill the beans, keeping you a little bit curious how all these things work. And where's my OBS? I lost my window. here we are. There are so many windows open right now on my computer because I have always resources up. So, for example, I can put this file in here. You see, so this is on my computer. It's just an HTML file, and I can click OK, and we are now having this as a resource coming in. And what this OBS is doing for you is that you can actually go and alter this HTML file like you would alter a home page. And because this is a browser, it will just it will just be updated. For example, I could load the hero pool of NGS season 13 into this, and you see stuff is happening. So that is the second more important reason why we are talking so much about browser sources. So I think it is good for you to understand what a browser source is, so that you can have like some idea what Soothsayer is actually doing on your computer, so that all these things magically appear on your casting setup. And now in the next episode we're going to talk about how to install Soothsayer, and then we're going to start building our scenes.